These political action, yes. I just wanted the Federal Election Commission to know when I emailed those election districts, yeah, that the police state known as Washington State is refusing to enforce the laws of the United States. Now, for the state legislature that dislikes me criticizing them, yeah, I emailed the whole state legislature. Pooh. Now, this idea that you can arrest, imprison, and then dismiss cases where you say a person has a mental illness or mental defect, yes, because you refuse to exonerate the individual when you have the evidence. I actually am going to sue you. Ooh, now, I found out about political conventions. Yes, yes, yes. And it's somewhat interesting. They have what's known as delegate selection. Yeah. These are individuals that go to these big conventions that are in the actual party. Yes, yes, yes. Now, it's if you read the actual definition of how this works, there's two main methods of choosing which delegate candidates will attend as delegates. There's state laws about this. I didn't know. See, it says other states hold a candidate primary in which the names of the presidential candidates appear on the ballot. Number of votes each candidate receives, so on and so forth. Yes. Then there's party caucuses or participatory caucuses. Yes. Now, the organizers of the convention, yeah, has a national committee. Yes. And then usually somebody in Congress, right, does the keynote speaking. Yeah. And let's say you're in the Citizen Party. You want to do one of these keynote speaks. Then they introduce the campaign, make a national convention of Democratic or Republican parties, or there can be a third party. Yes. And then at the convention, special convention committee present their reports for adoption by the convention delegates. Yes. Now, as I understand this, it's really not that difficult to start another party. It just takes a few $1 billion. Yeah. And when I'm wanting to sue each of those that are legally liable for the enforcement of the laws, pooch, I'm going to use some of those judgments to do this. Yes. Now, you can't dismiss a case without actually enforcing the McNaughton rules. Right. That's why you're getting sued for dismissing it. And obstructing my right to actually run for office and start a new party. Two different lawsuits. See, I'm thinking of going through all the training that has been received by all of those that have run for office in any city, county, tribal government, state, or the federal government, so as to know what they learned. It's kind of a backwards way of approaching it. If I know how you're trained, I know how I will not be trained because I know your training. Don't do it. Don't do it. But I know you can discriminate against individuals that want to know your training even though you don't want them to be a candidate within your political party. Let's say I sued you. Let's say you're trained. You're trained to run for office, and they trained you on how to get elected and what the actual party politics are. Yes, yes, yes. And then they told you about the whole oath of office when you get there. Do any of you in the Democratic or Republican parties realize? Now, let's say I sued you for the training that you received. Yes, even though you didn't get elected to office, you happen to know the crime. You're legally liable for the education received. Now, looking at the history of the national conventions, yes, the writers of the Constitution of the United States did not outline the procedure for nominating a president. Until the early 1830s, the party supporters in Congress or in state legislatures usually nominated the party's candidate for president. Then there was the anti-Masonic Party. Not a good name, okay? Everybody knows that you don't berate the Masons. I'm suing them for their actual property, for their. You do not say anything negative against them. The Masons are the builders, the 33-degree Masons. Yes, they actually happen to have some influence in the Treasury until about yesterday. And then when I decided I'd take their properties and then I'd fix them all up and rent them some office space so they could hold their meetings.